This is the perfect cinema camera rig that doesn't work. Hey all, thanks for tuning in today. Here is my Blackmagic Micro Studio 4K G2 camera rig. I'm just gonna call it the Micro from now on. This took me over a year to build. A little bit of laziness, a little bit of creating a solution that fits my need, but mostly this camera just has a lot of pitfalls that aren't worth dealing with. First off, why did I get this over the Blackmagic Pocket 4K? This camera is small, like mind-blowingly small. The day this thing was available, I immediately purchased it. The thought of a camera this size that shoots 4K up to 60 FPS RAW, 12G SDI in and out, full-size HDMI, Genlock, records the SSD drives, and has decent low-light capabilities. But just like in life, size isn't everything. Your mom would disagree, but that's enough. Besides the size and the SDI ports, the Pocket kind of destroys this thing. Like if those two things aren't important to you, this thing is such a piece of shit. There is no card slot. You have to send data over the USB-C port to either an SSD, card reader with a card in it, which I don't recommend, or an Ethernet port and use it in your network setup, which is what it's primarily used for. This initially wasn't that big of a deal, but now with the Pyxis monitor, well, we'll get into that in a bit. The Pocket has Bluetooth, the Micro doesn't. Usually not a big deal in cameras, but Blackmagic has this pretty sweet camera control app. And usually you can control the Pocket with devices like the Tilta Nucleus Nano 2. No such luck on the Micro. Since it's a studio camera, it's more network focused. You can control it using Blackmagic's network-based REST API over Ethernet or their HDMI SDI control protocol when paired with an ATEM switcher. An obvious one, the screen. One has one, the other doesn't. The screen on the Pocket is nice because you can easily change the camera settings. Changing the settings on the Micro, you have to use these stupid little buttons. I get it, with small form factor come sacrifices, but they could have done something like the joystick used on some cameras, like the one on my Canon C500 Mark II. These buttons are a nightmare. Flush with the body, and I'm always misclicking. I found this 3D print that does help, but still not great. Which is why the Pyxis monitor update was going to be a godsend. To get the rest of the rig where I wanted it, I needed a decent way to attach things to the camera. There are great solutions out there on the market, specifically the XLCS Designs one. But since this camera is so small, adding a metal cage like that just didn't make sense to me. The camera weighs about 300 grams, and the XLCS cage adds another 270 grams, almost doubling it. Plus, with the cages out there, they didn't quite have the functionality I was looking for. I wanted something small, lightweight, and with a built-in solution for an SSD. I started this project about 10 months ago with my friend Brett. I had the idea, but didn't know how to 3D model. We got some decent designs, but I eventually got burned out on the project, mostly because I wasn't using the camera in the first place. Then one day, with how creative minds work, 3D modeling just started making sense, and I was able to finish up the model. Well, kind of. It's not quite done, but it doesn't add much to the size of the camera, and it doesn't add much to the weight, about 70 grams. With this design, it has a built-in slot for a Samsung T5 SSD. The rear also swaps out for a simple plate with a few mount points that I'm using for the SmallRig NPF plate. I also have one that Brett made that can hold the SmallRig VB50 V-mount battery. It took a lot to get to this point with a ton of prints, design changes, etc., but it's been fun to learn and surprisingly super worth it. Next, I needed to figure out power. I made the choice to remove the LPE6 functionality in this cage to keep it small. When you use the SmallRig VB50 battery and a 4-port D-tap splitter, it powers everything for about 1.5 to 2 hours depending on use. But I had these SmallRig NPF batteries sitting around that are 10,500 milliamp hours. The SmallRig VB50 V-mount is about 3,400 milliamp hours at 14.8 volts. Quite a bit more battery at about 2/3 the size. Plus, with this SmallRig NPF plate, it has a USB-C port that does 36 volts out. I spent a good amount of time looking for a D-tap splitter that would take USB-C input. I couldn't find anything, so I made my own. I had to solder a USB-C 12-volt PD control board to it and then cross my fingers it works. Luckily, it did, and not only did it work, but it worked really well. I haven't done a legit test, but with the video assist recording, I got 4 hours of recording to the monitor and the SSD, and it wasn't dead yet. Now, I don't really recommend this because I'm not an electrical genius, but it works. Now we get to the Pyxis monitor. This thing is pretty slick. It was originally released for the Blackmagic Pyxis camera, hence the name. It's a touchscreen and runs and powers over USB-C. When Blackmagic did their 2025 NAB live stream, a small part of it was announcing that they were releasing support for this monitor to work with the Micro Studio. I was fucking stoked because this camera has been sitting on my shelf with hardly any hours on it. They said they were still working on it and it would take about a month. I immediately ordered the monitor and waited nearly 3 months. Finally, quietly released last night. I downloaded and updated the camera and plugged in the monitor. The camera OS felt like any other Blackmagic camera, but then I saw in the center of the screen no drive. I thought, no big deal, I'll just get my USB-C hub. I plug in the monitor and the SSD and no luck. The monitor powers on, but no video feed or camera control. Nothing. I was reading on Blackmagic forums, and I guess support has told some individuals that this is not supported. Why the fuck did Blackmagic make this just for the camera not to be really usable? I had one support agent tell me to use 2 monitors, which on bigger rigs isn't the end of the world and can be pretty standard. But for a camera this small, it totally ruined the point of why I bought it. I have other USB-C hubs that I'm trying out, but my hopes aren't very high. In theory, you need one with DisplayPort alt mode, USB 3.1 Gen 2, and power delivery. And not a lot of hubs have that. I have tried this Anchor hub and this small rig hub, and nothing worked. With the Pyxis monitor, this is the perfect rig. The size, the weight, the functionality, the image quality, just exactly what I wanted. It just doesn't work, at least at the moment. I'm stubborn and I'm going to figure this out. I've got a few hubs on order and hopefully one of them magically works. For now, I'm using the 5-inch 12G video assist. It's great. It just sucks power like crazy and is a bit heavier. But one of the quirks of this camera is you don't have any playback after recording, and this kind of fixes that. With the Pyxis monitor, people were hoping that this was part of the update, but if we can't even get SSD drives to work, I doubt they updated that. I'm still finalizing this cage. I'm still kind of deciding what I want to do with it. It took a lot of work to get where it is now, mostly because I'm self-taught and made a lot of mistakes and thought I wanted certain features, and then didn't. Is 3D printing a cage stupid? Fuck yes. But with a rig this small and light, it's been great and surprisingly strong. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to sell the 3D files or just print the cages myself and ship them. Either way, I've put together a form below to gauge interest. If you're even remotely interested in it, fill it out. Let me know what features you want added. Different SSD sizes, cold shoe mounts, NATO rail options, whatever. Also, let me know in the comments what parts of the rig you liked, what didn't make sense, or what you do differently. I'm still tweaking everything, and I'm curious what you would put to make your rig perfect. Anyways, this is my first video on YouTube. I am super uncomfortable doing this. I prefer to be behind the camera, have been for the last 8 years, but I had this feeling it's time to start a YouTube channel. So subscribe if you like this video if you want to see more content like this in regards to this camera specifically. I've got future videos coming out, like with how to do virtual production, like this setup behind me. More 3D printing stuff, like I 3D printed the housing on the cinema lens. Whatever. I got a lot coming, a lot planned. I just gotta do it. Anyway, that's it. I'm out. Tell your mamas.